Hello and welcome back to Bonnie and Soul's Plant-Powered Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a really simple recipe for roasted radish green chips. You may have taken home some radish greens yesterday. These were fresh greens cut from radishes at Clem's Organic Gardens in Brevard. We went and sent volunteers out there to harvest the radish greens while the farm harvested the radishes. These greens came from watermelon radishes. You can see they're kind of green on the outside, and they're this beautiful pink color on the inside, which is really exciting. So the farm sells the radishes, but they're not able to sell the greens. So this is a great example of getting more familiar with a food that is totally nutritious, delicious, versatile, but just not typically found at a grocery store. So it's an exciting way to expand your palate, try something new. Radish greens are really delicious. They have a really slight peppery, radishy flavor, but it's not as strong as the radish root itself. And like other leafy greens, they're a great source of calcium, vitamin C, and antioxidants. So the first step for your greens is to give them a rinse. These greens might be a little more dirty than greens you might buy at the grocery store because they were harvested fresh in the field, bunched by volunteers right there, and then they went straight to the market. So go ahead and give your greens a nice rinse, and then we'll come back and see what the next step is. Okay, now my greens are nice and clean, and I can see that there's a fairly big stem or midrib. The mid vein of the leaf on these radish greens are fairly large. I want to remove this part because it's not going to get crispy in the oven. There's so much moisture in there and it's so thick that it's not going to give me that crisp chip texture that I'm going for. So what I want to do is just lay my green on my cutting board, and I can just cut the leaf part off, leaving the stem. And I'm going to get these end parts here too. Sometimes you can just pull off the end parts really easily. And so that leaves this big, thick part. I'm not going to include this, but I am going to put it in my freezer and save it for when I'm making some soup stock. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same with all of my radish green leaves. Okay, I've separated my greens from the stems, and any of the big leaves I've ripped into smaller pieces. Now I'm going to drizzle this with olive oil and a little bit of salt. Now I'm going to massage the oil and salt into the greens, just like this. And that's it. Now my radish greens are ready to go in the oven, so I'm going to spread them out on this baking sheet in a single layer. If you pile them all on top of each other, they won't get enough airflow, and so they'll kind of steam, and that won't give you the crisp texture that you're going for with this recipe. And if the leaves are folded up, you'll just want to unfold them and spread them out. Now I'm going to put my tray in a 300-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm going to check on it periodically and maybe shift the leaves around. Ta-da! My chips are done. You can tell because they are nice and crispy. Let's give them a try. Ooh, there's a little bit of that spicy radish flavor, but it's not overpowering and it's not bitter at all. It's got a great thin texture. It's actually thinner than a kale chip, if you're familiar with kale chips, which is interesting. It's got the perfect amount of salt. So you do want to eat these as soon as they're ready because they won't keep the crispness very well in a Tupperware or in the fridge. And there you go. You have radish green chips. Feel free to comment if you make this recipe what you think or your favorite radish green recipes.